Okay, The Athletic has raised $200 million now, $200 million valuation. I believe they have raised $70 million. This is, right in my wheelhouse. Sports media, gambling, everything else based on this situation in general. Man, I find it hard to believe that company is worth $200 million. Now, they haven't released their subscriber numbers. They haven't released their growth rate. They haven't released anything about whether or not they are profitable. I will just tell you this. I have never wanted to take venture capital money because I've always wanted to be profitable from the first year that I started my company. So when I started Outkick in 2011, I didn't scale up. I didn't go hire a ton of people. I didn't try to get big and bring in all this money so I could go out and pay other people millions of dollars before I made a dollar. I have created a multi-million-dollar business that is very profitable, and I've been profitable since day one. Now, you could criticize me. Certainly, my way might not be the best way. You could say, and I own 100% of my company, by the way, you could say, Clay, you should have gone out, raised a bunch of venture capital money. You could have spread $10 million all over the place. You could have hired a bunch of people. You could have argued that your valuation should be X because your revenue was Y, but I would still not have created a profit. And so what I would be selling is the idea that one day I would be worth millions of dollars as a business, maybe $100 million, right? If you get to a $200 million valuation in a media business, even if it's a subscription media business, in my mind, and some of you are much better at business, I do back of the envelope math, right? I look at ideas and do back of the envelope math. In my mind, that means you have to be able to be consistently producing around, $60 million, $50, $40 million, $30 million a year of profit, and you have to be growing at it at a high rate. That's my math in general. I'm valuing this company at around 7 times revenue, right? Which is pretty high. Most media companies are typically valued in between 6 to 8 times the multiple, okay? So I am just roughly saying if they are valuing this company right now at $200 million, they have to be selling them on the idea that eventually they're going to be making $30 million a year in profit. That's a lot of subscribers, okay? In order to get to $30 million a year in profit, you have to get to a lot of subscribers. Moreover, I know for a fact that the cost of writers is insanely high, okay? If you employ all these writers, you can say it's one thing. Let's say you pay the average writer $100,000, okay, to cover a team. I guarantee you for most of these teams, they then have another $25,000 or $50,000 in expenses a year, depending on whether they're baseball, football, NHL, NFL, all of that different aspect of the story, right? Because if you're going to go on the road, which otherwise, why would I pay for your content if you're not on the road for every game? That's 80 days on the road for Major League Baseball, for instance. Even for something like the NFL, it's 8 different trips in the middle of the season. It's a huge cost. It's a massive cost, and I don't see the overall profitability associated with it. So even if you like the content, I also question, and this is just me, I also question as somebody who's in the industry, what am I getting that otherwise isn't available elsewhere? What unique content what's their secret sauce at The Athletic, right? To me, the secret sauce of 24/7 and Rivals is recruiting. If you tell me I will give you the most updated recruiting news for my favorite team and nobody else is going to have that info and you will be the most informed, that is something that I need. I don't buy the fact, for instance, and I just use the teams that I follow. I don't think there is any Tennessee Titans news that I don't already have, right? I think that I know everything about the Tennessee Titans. I don't think there is anything about the University of Tennessee that I don't already know. There's no great need, I don't believe, for more coverage of the Tennessee Titans and of the University of Tennessee. Now, it might well be that there is a great demand for the Nashville Predators. I don't consume much of their content. If you are a Florida Panthers fan or whatever the heck they're called, there may be a lot of NHL team news that you want that isn't covered by your local media. So it's a 4th round pick. So I think that factors in. I don't believe that you need. But Their sauce is that you get coverage of all sports and you don't need another service. I don't need that now. What coverage do I need now that I don't get? I can pull up ESPN.com and I can go through my Twitter feed and I can follow anybody and get the most updated news I need about any team for free instantaneously. So I don't buy into, again, this doesn't mean that I'm right. I don't buy into the idea that they are providing something unique that I can't find anywhere else. Okay? That's my general perspective on it. And by the way, we have reached the NFL trade deadline. So if there's any news that comes out in the next couple of minutes, let me know. So again, I don't buy into having to have it. Now, doesn't mean that some people might not want it. And I root for them to be successful. Look, if The Athletic is worth $200 million, then what I have created is worth $20 million, right? And I own 100% of it. So I'm not going to complain about high-level multiples for sports media companies. And I hope The Athletic turns into a billion-dollar company because a rising tide lifts all boats. If The Athletic ends up being worth $500 million, a lot of people are going to look around and say, hey, what else could be a $500 million business? Who has a big audience that we could scale subscriber-wise? People are immediately going to alight on me. They're going to alight on The Ringer. I think they'll probably alight on Barstool. There aren't that many of them. So I don't root against that company succeeding. I am just skeptical that it's going to work, given that I'm not particularly in that marketplace for demand, right? Maybe you are. Maybe tons of you out there are subscribers to The Athletic. I'm not. I am a rival subscriber, and I get information that I can't get elsewhere. I like the idea. Look, maybe The Athletic is right. If The Athletic is worth $200 million, then maybe I should just put everything that I do on Outkick behind a paywall. We signed up several thousand people for Outkick VIP. If I put the anonymous mailbag, and if I put all my gambling picks, and if the only way you could read anything that I do is by subscribing to a subscription model, and you had to pay $100 a year for everything that we do at Outkick, maybe that's the play I should follow. You know, the simple math there would be, can I get 10,000 people to sign up and pay $100 a year? I think I probably could do that and do $1 million a year in subscriber revenue just based off of Outkick and still be doing Periscopes and Facebooks and Twitter and radio and television all for free. So I think that would be an intriguing model. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe that is the answer. And look, I am rooting for The Athletic to follow and to succeed. And I certainly will follow any business that I think makes sense for me going forward. But so far I haven't done it. So far, everything that I've ever written online has been free. And I don't know how many people can say that. 15 years, I've never charged $1 for anything that I've ever put online. And so maybe that's the answer. My readership would go down, but the quality of the interaction on the site would probably increase. So look, I'll monitor The Athletic and see how their growth is going and see whether or not it makes sense for the future. But I don't feel bad about putting things behind paywall. It's not that I'm opposed to it. It's just that for my business so far, it hasn't made sense to put everything behind a paywall. So maybe the answer is that I should put everything behind a paywall. And if you want to read my written content, you have to be a subscriber. People will bitch and they will moan. But, you know, maybe that's the answer. I'm not sure 100%, but it is certainly worth contemplating.